what you're seeing is you have a schism within the Republican Party. You have the Republican Party is searching for an identity. They're searching to define their soul. That's what's going on. Is the Republican Party in this state a moderate party, or is it an extreme conservative party? That's what they're trying to figure out. And it's very interesting because it's a mirror of what is going on in Washington, right? The gridlock in Washington is less about Democrats and Republicans. It's more about extreme Republicans versus moderate Republicans. And the moderate Republicans in Washington can't figure out how to deal with the extreme Republicans, and the moderate Republicans are afraid of the extreme conservative Republicans in Washington, in my opinion.
All right, folks, welcome back. That's the voice and the words of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who went on to say that conservatives, pro-life, pro-gun conservatives have no place in the state of New York because that's not who New Yorkers are, he said. Well, joining us right now is a man who would like to sit in the governor's mansion, and I believe that he will. I guess he feels that that's the way to go in this state. But you have proven in Westchester County, a Democratic district, a Democratic area, not once but twice after having been reelected in November, that, that's not, you don't alienate people, you appeal to people, and that's what you do.
That's correct. Our county is about 1 million people. We border New York City. We have 49% registered Democrats, 24% registered Republicans. And yet I got elected in 2009 by about a 14-point margin and just got reelected, governing as a Republican, by the way, governing as a fiscal conservative. We cut the budget more than any county in all of New York. We cut property taxes more than any county in New York. And yet we made sure that we governed the right way, which is what you're supposed to do. And we're not dividing people. I have big disagreements with some people on social issues, and they knew who I was, and they just reelected us, with a 13-point margin. I think what bothers me the most is, so far in New York, we've lost over 3 million people in the last 10 years, and Governor Cuomo apparently isn't satisfied with that. He wants to chase away and bully away more people with this kind of divisive comment. I mean, if you think about how outrageous that is, basically, he said, if you don't agree with me on abortion, and I want to talk about his abortion bill, which he's passing or trying to pass, which lost by 1 vote in the state Senate. But if you don't agree with him on the Second Amendment, and he would basically ban everything if he could, I think, and on gay marriage, he calls anyone who's not in favor of traditional marriage anti-gay. That's not true. I mean, I respect everybody, and that's the way it should be. And I'm not going to leave this state because he tells me to. In fact, it's going to make me and others fight harder for our state, which we love and which we want to raise our family in, and which we understand we might have disagreements with our neighbors or whomever, but we can live peacefully, and we all want this state to be as best that it can, and it's not. I mean, we're the worst business climate in the country, high unemployment. We've got the highest property taxes in the nation, the highest income taxes, the most corruption. I mean, what else do we want? We're going in the wrong direction.
Well, Rob, why do you think he said this? I mean, was this from his point of view, for the people around him, an unfortunate slip-up of what he really believes but never should say, or is this a strategy?
I think it's who he is. I mean, I think he revealed his true self, which is very divisive. It's interesting. We were just beginning the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, where Dr. King preached tolerance, preached, peaceful ways to change.
Coexistence.
Exactly. And yet the governor said, if you're any of these things, if you believe that abortion is not right or want to try to work towards reducing the number of abortions, which we should all strive for, by the way. If you believe that the Second Amendment is not absolute, and et cetera, that you should leave New York State. I mean, it's incredulous. You think about that. Should Cardinal Eek Cardinal Dolan or Cardinal Egan, his predecessor, or any Baptist minister or any Jew or anybody in the state who disagrees on a very personal issue, disagrees with this governor, that they should be shown the door.
Right, and are they anti-gay bigots because they disagree for religious grounds? We're talking to Rob Asterino, the Westchester County executive in Westchester County, New York. Hopefully, will become the Republican nominee to take on Andrew Cuomo for the governor's seat in New York. Now, let me ask you about that. Donald Trump had said that he might run for governor. Over the weekend, it came out in a I think Roger Stone said that there was an email from one of his big assistants, I believe Mike Cohen, if I'm not mistaken, that indicated he was not interested in running for governor. Then Mike Cohen said, no, read the email. It never said that. And today I'm seeing that Trump has expressed an interest in running for president because he says that Christie was weakened by the whole Bridgegate scandal. So tell me.
Oh, and by the way, Steve, The Apprentice starts in March.
Okay, but and Donald comes on this show, but let me ask you: as long as Donald Trump is out there and it's a possibility that he may run for governor, does that hurt you in any way, fundraising or otherwise?
No, I think. Donald Trump and I are friends. We've known each other for probably a decade. I think he's a really good businessman, and I think we both agree that New York State is going down the tubes, and we're trying to do anything we can to inform the public and say, in this state, you just look at the numbers. Everyone's, fleeing New York. I mean, there's no more proof needed. It is an absolute, and the governor admits that. And the governor promised, Donald Trump and I absolutely agree that this state is on the wrong path and fast, and we need to fix it. And so, we agree on just about all of those issues. I'm continuing down my path in the interest to run. I'm actually going to be in Albany today, meeting with party leaders and having a fundraiser, and I'll continue to do that. This is a winnable race, and I would ask anybody listening to, be my friend on Facebook, to follow us, to donate if you wish via robasterino.com. This is how we're going to win, by pointing out nationally and obviously within New York State that we are going in the wrong direction and fast, that we have a very intolerant governor, as we just heard him say in his own words. And it's actually funny because he's trying to backtrack and saying he was taken out of context. Really? No, you really weren't. What you said is what you said, and you mean what you said. And so in Westchester, we have a very big tent. We're not divisive. We all get along very well, even though we disagree, but we're inclusive.
Well, let me ask.
That's the way it should be in New York State.
Let me ask you a question, but getting back to Donald for a second. If he decides not to run for governor, and officially, does away with that idea or that possibility, can you foresee an endorsement from him and possibly, a contribution from him of some whatever he's allowed to give?
I would certainly welcome that. He's given me money in the past in my county executive races. And so I would certainly welcome that. Absolutely. Have you,
in your conversations, have you talked about your running for governor, and then has he mentioned his interest, or has he mentioned he'd support you? I mean, have the conversations you've had, whenever, have they been recent, and have they included any of that?
Yeah, they have. I mean, we've talked recently on the phone. He and I met together in his office about a week and a half ago.
All right. So where are we? I mean, do you believe he's going to run for governor?
That's only he can answer that question.
Okay. Do you believe? But you believe if he doesn't, that he will support you?
I would certainly hope so. I mean, there's no reason to not support me.
Yeah. Do you expect he'd run for governor? What's your gut feeling?
I don't know. Honest to God, I mean, you have to ask them. Obviously, from the email that came out this past weekend that he is not going to run, and from the story in Politico today that he is looking at running for president in New Hampshire. He's got to pick.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
I think that's what concerns a lot of people in New York State and in the Republican Party is that they want to make sure that he's very interested, and I think that's part of the problem. But look, I respect him very much, and whatever he chooses to do, he'll do. And where does Westchester County stand
with the HUD lawsuit, and for those, a test case, basically trying to force them and dictate to them how to build housing, where to build housing, with all kinds of threats of cutting off financial aid, state aid and all this, not state, but federal aid and all that. So briefly, if you could summarize it in like a minute and then tell us in the next minute where it stands. I know the people, I know I'd love to know.
Well, here's where it stands. We're building the housing that we're required to do, and we're well ahead of schedule as per the 2009 settlement signed by my predecessor. What I will not do is yield to the demands of the federal government that would basically require us to sue all our municipalities, to break up all zoning, and to turn over control in many ways to the federal government. And I will not. And by the way, if you're listening to this, no matter where you are in the country, you're next, because there's a federal rule that they are promulgating that would basically, by statistics supplied by HUD, prove, without you being able to prove otherwise, they would prove that you are segregated and discriminatory, and as such, the Department of Justice would get involved. They would take away your grants. And it's frightening stuff that's happening right now. It really turns upside down the Constitution. And so I am holding firm that we as a county are under the law, in control of our own local zoning, and that not faceless bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. should decide who lives where and how our communities are built. That's best left up to our own communities. Yeah, and that's what the battle is.
And yeah, folks, you really have to understand this. Rob Asterino and I have been talking about this since he first became Westchester County executive and tried to implement the terms of an agreement with HUD that his predecessor signed on to, and that's never been good enough for HUD. They want more and more and more, and he's right. They're going to come to they're going to try to do this in everybody's city, town, locality, forcing low-income housing or affordable housing, whatever they want to call it, and they want to dictate where it goes, how many units, and it's just a nightmare scenario. Hey, Rob, we'll speak to you soon, and thanks for coming on. Lots of information, and we appreciate it, sir.
You got it, Steve. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Rob Asterino. Enjoy the Super Bowl, by the way. Rob Asterino, Westchester County executive in New York State. Great guy. I've known him for a long time. We both have a sports background, and we both started in sports in radio, believe it or not. Yes, that was a lifetime ago, ladies and gentlemen. All right, very interesting conversation with Rob. When we come back, the one, the only, John Fund will be here, and we're going to talk about resume enhancement on the part of the Democratic candidate for governor in Texas. You may know her name. And another Obamacare nightmare in a very liberal state. Oh, the mystery, the mystery. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.